Kristen Hatton, welcome to the Compare To show again.
Thank you. It's good to be back with you.
Yeah, I'm excited for our conversation today because we're going to talk about how to help your kids with body image and food issues. And you've walked this.
I
You
have.
walked through this with your daughter, Rebecca. And I would just love for you to share your story. What did that look like? What was Rebecca's journey? What was your journey through that? And we start there.
Yeah, let's do it. And this is so hard. So for any of you listening that are in this journey, I see you. It's really hard. And there were times that I felt very isolated and alone. But I'll kind of back up. Rebecca was in middle school when she first started comparing herself to her friends. And at that point, I had no idea, no idea. And everybody, of course, goes through puberty at different rates, and everybody has different body types. And so I didn't know that she was comparing her changing body and curves to her taller, stick thin friends who had not yet developed. And I'll say this too, this was even before Instagram because she was in eighth grade when Instagram started. And so that did play a factor as things escalated when she got into high school. But at this point, like this was starting just with in real life friends with each other at each other's homes. It wasn't, even looking at social media. I can see now how like that just intensifies the
Right.
comparison. But at one point, and I did not know this for years later, but I know now that at one point she was with a group of friends and they were getting dressed for a middle school dance. And she commented to one of her friends that she was so pretty, she looked like a model. And this friend said to her, they have plus size models too. Well, in no way would you have looked at my daughter, who was not overweight at all, and thought plus size model. But in her eyes, because of that comment and how thin this friend was, like she then, like that just took hold and she believed that lie and that's how she looked and how others viewed her. And so, I mean, she's maybe 13 at this time. And so, I mean, it was not, and probably 3 or 4 years later that I knew that specific lie. And so it just began to take root and so significantly contributed to a full out eating disorder a couple years later. And so that journey even was a little off and on. When she was a freshman in high school, she wanted to lose weight. And at that point, like I thought, okay, we can do this in a healthy way. Um, and all of a sudden it just spiraled out of control where I didn't even realize how restrictive she had become and how very little she was eating. And of course, then she was getting lots of compliments about how great she looked. And that was one of those things that as a mom, I really beat myself up over that. How did I miss this? Like, how did I not step in and intervene and see that like she's not eating?
Mhm.
So I've had to deal with that from in my own journey, but she had some friends that then confronted her, and that she was upset by it, but I was so grateful that she had these friends that were brave enough to say something. So we went to a dietitian.
And wait, Kristen, like how old was she at this point?
She at this point is probably 14 or 15.
Okay, so
She's
still
late,
really young. Okay.
still young, like a
Wow.
freshman in high school.
Okay. Okay.
So we went to a dietitian and she learned about what's happening inside our bodies
Mhm.
when we are depriving ourselves of food. And that was really scary to her
Mhm.
because she realized like my organs can shut down.
Mhm.
But what that ended up doing is it gave her permission to eat again. But then she went, as so often this happens with eating disorders, we deprive ourselves and restrict, and then all of a sudden we go to the extreme other side. And so then
Mhm.
she starts binging, which led to purging. And
Mhm.
that then I didn't know. I thought, oh, good. We got this taken care of. That was great.
Mhm.
She heard from the dietitian that this is what's happening. And now she's healthy again. Like her weight was restored. And so I thought, we're out of the woods.
Mhm.
And it wasn't then until the beginning of her junior year that she confided in me that she had been purging. And
Mhm.
that's when then we really in earnest were doing counseling and seeing a dietitian weekly and, for the rest of high school. Um, and then she was okay, mostly, but it popped back up in college. So it's been a long, long journey. I can say she's 26 now, and she would say herself that for the first time recently, she really feels just secure that she knows
Mhm.
her worth in the Lord. And she was a believer this whole time.
Mhm.
But as we all know, as believers, that we can know the truth and yet we still, buy into these lies about who we are.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been just a long up and down journey.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So how did you respond? I mean, okay, when you first found out that she wasn't eating, like
Yes.
what I mean, were you like did you have any idea how to respond?
No, I really
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, I was so scared myself when I really
Mhm.
realized, and like I said, I felt a lot of guilt that I
Mm.
had not caught this
Mhm.
myself. I realized too that just even my own, just some disordered eating, maybe if you want to call it that, but just
Mhm.
as so often we do as females, oh, I need to lose some weight, or oh, I look fat. Some of those things, like I have learned so much myself about not moralizing food. Let's not
Mhm.
call food good or bad.
Mhm.
Let's, just lots of things related to like my own, like what not commenting on people's bodies, being
Right.
careful about not commenting on our own bodies.
Right.
And how they pick up on things from the time they're little. In fact,
Yeah.
research shows, you probably know this, that even as young as 3
Mhm.
now, that children start to pick up on just body differences.
Yeah.
And so we kind of maybe think that when our kids are young that they're not paying attention or they're not listening, but they are hearing and seeing how we treat our own bodies. So
Yeah.
there's things like that that I wish that I could unwind and like have done differently,
Mhm.
throughout her growing up years. But as we
Mhm.
talked about in the previous episode, like we have to give forgiveness and grace to ourselves. I mean, I
Yeah.
had to confess some of that to her.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, I can't take the blame, but there were things that I learned and that God is growing me in.
Yeah. Yeah. You were both on a journey.
We were both on a
Right?
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hindsight being 2020 or better.
Yeah.
What do you wish you had seen now? Like, were there things you maybe could have seen that in retrospect you're like, oh, I did notice that, but I thought it was this, like, and anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, like the amount of food that she had limited herself to, I should have been, and I would be now, much more in tune to what she was not eating and what she was eating,
Mhm.
and making sure that she was having a more full balance of food.
Mhm.
I think it's tricky because as any of you listening that have high school kids or
Mhm.
just kids in
Right.
general that are busy in activities, you're kind of coming and going,
Right.
and we were as good as we could be about all sitting down for a family dinner together. But there were times that, oh, she said she wasn't very hungry, or she was just going to have a salad instead. And so
Mhm.
just those kind of things happen. And in the moment, you're not really thinking that it's problematic. But now,
Yeah.
like a warning flag would have gone up in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know too, I mean, she wasn't verbalizing initially that self criticism and comparison. So I
Mhm.
had no idea about some of that, but there was some withdrawal from friends, and she was super social. And so even that, now thinking about it, and again, that ties back to intentional connecting and
Mhm.
active listening. There was maybe some things that I was just busy in my own world doing my own things and maybe
Mhm.
missing some signs. And so, I mean, that's where I want moms to hear, like, please be gentle to yourself because
Mhm.
we are not going to catch it all.
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's a mom out there listening. I know there is, whose daughter has come to her and said, I want to lose weight.
Mm.
Or, I mean, the other side of that too is maybe the mom sees the daughter and says she should lose weight. I think she needs to lose weight. Her life will be easier if she would lose weight. Well, how would you advise that mom?
Yeah, that's hard. My first question is, and you kind of said this, two different scenarios, but is she daughter thinking she has a weight problem, or is that you? Because
Okay, so
so
yeah, let's approach it first from daughter thinks that
okay.
she has the
Okay.
problem.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I would a better approach, or the approach that I would take is healthy habits so that our
Mhm,
body can optimally function.
mhm,
And so that means eating foods that fuel us, drinking lots of water, getting good sleep and movement. And so not focusing on like a diet, but like how can we take care of the bodies that God has given us, like so
mhm,
that we can function well. And so even though I talked about not labeling foods good or bad, certainly there are foods that give us more energy or make us more sluggish.
mhm.
So just encouraging those healthy habits, because those are lifelong things that we want to have healthy habits.
Yeah,
So that would be my direction now. Like
yeah.
if I could replay, my daughter being in that situation of wanting to lose weight, we would focus just on these
Mhm.
healthy habits.
But can I push a little bit on that one?
Sure, please do.
But if you have a daughter that is wired like your daughter was and wired like I am, I hear healthy habits and I think I can do better.
Hmm.
I mean, to me, that sends me to orthorexia,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
if you want me to be healthy habits, I can be healthy habits for you. I can
Mhm.
make sure I exercise obsessively. I can make sure I don't eat anything that's not clean. It doesn't fuel my body. Like I just wonder, like I honestly wonder if they're like both things are true, right, Kristen? Like as we talked about kind of in the last episode, like we do have this responsibility as parents to like help our kids with physical health.
Mhm.
And yet, the culture out there is so loud
Mm.
around physical health. Like I've got 4 kids and it's my boys that will watch YouTube videos on how to be healthier. It's my boys that will argue with me about food and
Mm.
what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. I mean, and so I just wonder how we navigate those things wisely, right? I don't know. Like I don't want to be argumentative, but I just wonder if
No.
healthy habits covers it well enough, right? Or if
Yeah. No,
that's
I'm glad
dangerous
you
for some.
that is such a good point. Well taken, for sure. I think that's important because we do have that tendency in our culture. Like we can feel a lot of pride because we are eating clean,
Mm.
or we're over exercising, doing all healthy habits like you're saying. So yeah, we
Yeah,
do need to maybe sparse that out a little bit more. I believe it goes back to idolatry as well. Like what are we trusting in functionally?
right,
Like, am I looking to my clean eating as my righteousness? And
right.
so those are conversations we've been having with our kids since the time they were young, is like
Yeah,
what's ruling our hearts. So I think they go hand in hand. Um,
yeah,
Helping them learn to understand like what is their motive and what are they basing their perfection in, or their
yeah,
righteousness in. Is it their own ability to eat clean, or to whatever it is, run a
right,
marathon, um,
right.
or am I
That's
trusting
good.
in a savior?
Yeah.
But I also, the point, I think this is so important, is boys, because
Mhm.
increasingly boys are struggling with body image, but we don't always see it. For them, it was kind of like your sons, and my sons were this way too. They're using protein powder and they're wanting to
Mhm.
have, muscle. And they can feel all these insecurities too. Like if they
Right.
take their shirt off and they don't look as muscular as the next guy, or one of my sons is fairly short, especially compared to his brother, who is
Mhm.
significantly taller. And so, just his own insecurity. Of course, we can't do anything about our height, but there's still, it's that body image
Right.
that boys too. And so, we can't just say, or not pay attention to our boys too, because
Yeah.
they're also having these internal thoughts.
Ooh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've had teenage boys reach out to me over the years. Kristen, it's the funniest thing. There might be teenage boys listening now because I feel bad because I'm like, you're right, there's not enough resources for you.
Mm-mm.
Like they don't know where to go. And because they're kind of missed in these conversations and, probably to the point you're making before, right? we might be more tuned into watching our daughters around this, but might miss it with our sons. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good reminder. But I think going back to, the conversation before about like healthy habits, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of spiritually healthy habits
Hmm.
are perhaps bigger, more frequent conversations that we need to have.
Yeah.
Um, and that's probably what's missing. Like,
Hmm.
honestly, right? Because that's a more awkward thing to talk about. Like, it's easy to talk about food, you know, especially like I'm just thinking this summer, like, my kids are around 3 meals a day, right? There's lots of opportunities to talk about food and basics. And, why don't you go run around the block instead of sitting in front of the television? Like those kind of things, I feel like was constantly parenting on, right?
Sure.
Especially when they were younger. And I homeschooled. And so my kids were home all day long. And so it was kind of, just constant opportunities to go move your body, go get some sunshine, like
Mhm.
those kind of things. And yet having conversations about like, okay, like, why is that so important to you? Like, what have you made an idol here? Like, those are harder. Like they were
Yeah.
to what you said in the last episode, right? They require more of that intentional parenting, that tuning into, wait a second here. This kid will never miss a workout. Like that might be the extreme from, get off the couch and go run around the block a couple times just to get some, energy out is really what it was for my kids. But it might be feel like it's a win, but maybe there's something going on below the
Right. 'Cause
surface.
we can perform well, we can do the good things, but you're right. What's going on in your heart? Hmm.
How did you respond when she confessed purging to you?
Mm-hmm. We were in the car. We had literally just pulled out of the driveway when she like says this. And I just like put the brakes on and put it in park. I mean, we were on our street and I just started crying. I just hugged her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was so overwhelmed. I was so grateful that she was confiding in me, but I was also just hurting myself that this struggle that I didn't know about, that she had been
Mm-hmm.
holding herself. So many emotions, but just really, really mostly grateful that she had the courage and felt
Yeah.
safe that she could tell me.
Because it feels like, okay, so you had a little bit of lay counseling experience. It feels like, I think for your average mom, I could be wrong, but I think the first tendency might be to like try to stop it,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, well, you
Yeah.
need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, after you eat, like, let's sit together on the couch, or, like, let's try to find some way to stop it.
Hmm.
Or even with anorexia, I mean, I know that one conversation that has to be had a lot with families is you can't respond with, "We just need to eat." Like, just
Hmm.
make them more
Hmm.
food. Just sit there and watch them until they finish their plate. Like, those kind of physical, like, interventions
Hmm. Hmm.
don't touch it, do they?
No, and not that there's not a place for interventions, but again, if we're not getting to the heart level, because an eating disorder is never about the food, it's
Yeah.
what's deeper. And so we have to go there. But you're right, I mean, these kind of things are scary for us as
Yeah.
parents, and any kind of issue. Like it's just we kind of want to just give law, like let's just
Mm.
you got to stop that, or I'm going to be your accountability partner. And again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but
Mhm.
that's not the cure all.
Right.
So ultimately, we have to go back to what are you trusting in? What's filling that hole in your soul? What are you
Right.
looking to? Why do you have to be perfect, or why are you seeking your worth in something else? And I mean, that's hard. That is
Mhm.
so hard. So I
Yeah.
have so much compassion because I know this is so much easier for me to just say now but knowing like this is a really long, drawn out journey.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking too, I mean, one of the data points behind eating disorders, right, is an inability to feel feelings,
Hmm.
right? We haven't learned how to feel our feelings. And I feel like that's a journey I'm still on. Like it's still easier for me not to feel my feelings. Like
Mhm, mhm.
feelings, I don't know that I really need them. I can just keep going. Right? I can just do things. And as they pop up. And so thinking about as parents, I mean, just, there's so much data out there that shows this, but like, we've got to be willing to enter in. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're really feeling? Like, is
Mhm.
this loneliness that you hope, like that you'll be more accepted if your body looks different, that you won't be rejected, that you have more friends? Like, is loneliness what you're feeling? What is the feeling? Are you depressed about something? Are you sad? Are you angry? What's underneath it all? And I
Yeah.
think that's hard for a lot of us to do because we never were taught to do that for ourselves.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. We have to go first
Mm-hmm.
because I think it takes being vulnerable because
Mm-hmm.
our kids are not going to necessarily just open up and say, and especially if they don't know how to feel their feelings.
Right.
But what are we modeling to them? Are we able to communicate like that when we feel lonely or sad? And so I think a great thing that families can do around the dinner table is use a feelings wheel
Mm-hmm.
and everybody identify like maybe once a week, like what feelings did you have this week, or this or that, and
Yeah.
talk about it. One, that's intentional. We get to know each other on a deeper level because so
Yeah.
often we're just talking about surfacey things, but we're helping equip them to be in touch with their feelings. I mean, all the
Yeah.
time in the counseling room, I ask clients how they're feeling, adult women, and they can't say, but then I hand them a feelings wheel and they see all these words, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, maybe this and this and
Mm.
this. Well, now that opens up a whole
Uh,
conversation. So that
yeah.
we can help our kids in that way for sure.
Yeah.
But
Going
I
first.
really believe that we have to be safe. We have to get in the boat with
Mm.
them, so that they feel like that they can share with us because they know that we are also vulnerable
Yeah.
and see ourselves as sinners in need of
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Okay. So as we kind of wrap up, someone listening today noticed last night that their daughter didn't eat very much for dinner. What do you do? Where do you start? You don't enroll her in treatment the next day.
Right.
but what is that process like? Like, how do I know when it's
Yeah.
a real problem? And is there like a litmus test for, okay, I need to seek get some outside help here? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, first, if I noticed that last night, I hadn't noticed it. It was first time, let's say that I noticed that, I would just put that away in my brain. And so
Mm,
now I'm going to notice, I'm going to be noticing. So I'm not going to say something probably initially because there are times that we're just not hungry or we're stressed or whatever, we're not eating as much. But if I start to see, okay, interesting, she's putting barely anything on her plate and this is happening regular, like then I
mhm.
would start to ask. And I also want parents to feel equipped, like we are the number one shaping influence in our children's lives. And I think so quickly, and of course I'm a therapist saying this, but I want, and this is really one of the reasons I started my redemptive parenting Instagram account, is because I want to encourage and equip parents to be the parent. And so sometimes, yes, we do need to call a counselor. Like things have
Mhm.
gotten way beyond our pay grade and more serious, but we can step in first and have these conversations. And so, just like we were just saying, like, tell me what's going on. What are you feeling?
Mhm.
I've noticed you haven't been eating as much lately. And in ourselves working through those things, one huge benefit of that is like we are connecting with our kid on a deeper level that
Mhm.
forms a lifelong foundation. And so if
Mhm.
we can be that for our kid, we can be that safe person. That's awesome. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So I would encourage parents to enter in themselves, and not just feel like we got to call in the professional just
Yeah.
immediately.
But then how do I know when I need the professional? Like, is there,
Yeah,
I don't know, gut feeling, or is there like weight loss amount, or
yeah,
is it
yeah.
immediately with purging? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, I might if my child was purging, I think I'd probably consult with a counselor and try to determine, like, okay,
Mm.
this has been going on. Yes, I need to have an appointment set up. So I don't know that there's like, these markers that we absolutely know, but if we are starting to see like, okay, this has been going on for a while and she's withdrawn and there's been all these changes in her eating and this, and I'm saying she, but she or he, obsessive focus on body or or self-criticism, like it may be that like, okay, I do need to call in some troops. And with
Mhm.
an eating disorder, especially, I mean, a dietitian, a counselor, a pediatrician, I mean,
Mhm.
we need the full army.
Mhm.
So certainly if it feels like this has been going on, like with my daughter, I mean, all of a sudden when she confessed to me, like it had been going on for a while. So
Mhm.
I didn't have time to now just myself try to do something. We needed professional
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. And just, I guess, last question. I don't know. This is probably like a gimme, but preventative. I don't, that's just a silly word. There's no such thing as preventative necessarily, right? But I'm just thinking, like, for a mom out there, who maybe daughter's getting ready to enter the teenage years. No, like anything you can think of to help set her up for a different path, like
Hmm.
maybe staying off social media or like, I mean, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think entering into it, like not making it a taboo topic. I mean, it's
Mm,
in the same way that we need to be talking about pornography with our kids. I think
mhm.
I would just address it. Like,
Yeah, that's good.
you're going into middle school or high school or whatever it is, and these are common struggles. Tell
Mhm.
me, like, have you felt this before? Or when you look at social media, like what goes through your mind, like just addressing it head on, entering in, like,
Yeah,
and saying I want to keep these dialogues going because I know this is a very real struggle for girls and women of all ages. And I would
yeah,
say too, like, I find myself struggling when I'm with a group of women and they're so beautifully dressed and like I can start feeling down on myself. And I think that's important for our
mhm.
girls to know our own struggles because again,
Yeah,
that makes us safe that
yeah,
they actually can come talk to us.
yeah. I'm so glad you said that. I was going to jump in with that too. Like, I think we're almost afraid to tell our daughters about our struggles because maybe we fear that they'll repeat it if they
Yeah.
hear it, like power of suggestion or something like that. Or maybe we're just like, and we think that compromises our role as parents, like, leading the child or something. But I
Uh-huh.
think you're spot on. Like being able to say, mom struggles with this too. Like this is real. You're not going to grow out of this. like we've got to look at the why, like what's really going on in our hearts when we get stuck here. And just being able to relate and say, yeah, me too. I think
Yeah.
that does
Yeah.
keep the line of communications open. So I think that's really good. Kristen, any final thoughts as we close?
Oh, one thing that I talk to clients about at times is just encourage her to think about all that her body does that is good.
Mhm, mhm.
To just remember, like, we can move, we can breathe, we
Yeah,
can laugh, we can enjoy our friends. I can experience the world through my senses.
yeah,
And then also just encouraging her and for ourselves, find scripture that speak to the body,
yeah,
so my body is worthy and valuable to God. Write these down and then pray that God would enable us to believe that. And
yeah.
then for ourselves, to trust God with our children's stories. Because as
Mhm.
we talked about in the last episode, like we want to control and fix and prevent. We don't want our children to struggle, but to know that God is writing a good story and that story is also for you. And so in
Yeah,
that's where I grew so much in my dependence and need of the Lord because I knew I could not fix my daughter. And so I
yeah,
had to ride that journey with her.
yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, Kristen Hatton, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Heather.
And
I
you
appreciate
connect with people at Redemptive Parenting on Instagram and
us.
your website. I will put the links, and you have a number of books. You've got a book on parenting, but you mentioned the last episode, will you mention again the Bible study you have for teenagers?
Yes. So there's three books. Get Your Story Straight is a year-long devotional book for girls and boys. There's a Bible study in the book of Exodus. And then FaceTime, Your Identity in a Selfie World is specifically for girls, um, not just dealing with body image, but that's a part of it. That's actually what led me to write it. And so it's helping to be rooted in the truth of God's word and learning to dispute the lies that we tell ourselves.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I'll have the link to all of that in the show notes. Kristen, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. This was great.
And thank you for watching or listening. I hope something today has helped you stop comparing and start living. Bye bye.